So you may be sitting there saying, wow, Brad is completely nerded out. You know why? Well, because I am a nerd. But the other reason that I'm really nerded out is because we have some spare time because of our transition to the online. Now, with only 2 more speeches to go, let's revisit some aspects that will help improve both your informative and your persuasive speech. Now, what I want to get into is what's called a hero's journey, a journey that we all are on in one way or another. And every movie you've seen that's awesome included a hero's journey. So let's talk about what we've discussed with storytelling to this point, how it adds to our experiences, what is a hero's journey, and where are we seeing this in modern media? Let's go back. Storytelling. This is what we covered. This is what we normally just cover. But with some extra time, let's go a little bit more in depth. We have the exposition. Exposition is our background story, setting things up, what characters are involved, where they're from, who they are in life. Then we have our rising action. All right, what type of struggles do they encounter? Are they running into rob a bank? Are they saving someone from a burning building? What is this rising action? There has to be a crisis of some sort. And then finally we hit the climax. All right, they've rushed into the building, it's burning, things are falling around them. They see the puppy that they're gonna save, they rush over there and they scoop the puppy out, and they're fighting off the fire as they rush out of the building. And then you get your falling action. And then finally, we reach the conclusion, how the story finally ends. They've saved the puppy, the building burnt down, but it's a good day because now they have a new best friend in that little puppy. That's where we've covered so far. You all did a really good job on your speeches, your introduction speech, with giving us a story about you. But let's take that a little bit further. When we're talking about a story about you, we're not just talking about, oh, the average person, oh, some college student. No, you get to be the hero. You're always the hero in your story. And for that reason, let's talk about a hero's journey. Now, where do stories connect within the mind? Well, it goes, let's look at our little diagram right in front of you, the neural coupling. That is the schemas that we talk about, the heuristics. It's the development of our cognitive mind where we attach, where we associate things. The somatic triangle that we were talking about, like if I say, let's go to the bank and we're downtown, you're thinking money. If we're up near the ocean, I say, let's go to the bank, you're thinking water. That's the somatic triangle of which we've talked about. Now, because they start attaching through your story with part of their cognitive process, this makes it important to them. In fact, they put themselves in your shoe. It's like every time we go to the movie, we always see ourselves in one of the characters, or it be the villain, or whether it be the good guy. Either way, we get to actually put ourselves seeing the story unravel as if we are them. Now the brain likes this because what it does is it releases chemicals, dopamine in particular, that excites the brain. It really gives us a pleasurable feeling and makes it an experience worth living. And then on top of it, our cortex, our brain, the gray matter just lights up all over the place, explodes here and there, and so it really becomes a personal experience. This is how stories connect to your audience. And we see that we understand utilizing that when we're talking about something along the lines of an introduction speech, I'll tell a story about myself. But have you ever listened to a speech where the person just gives data, where they just give you information? Sure, it's a good informative speech, but the audience is falling asleep. And the reason they're falling asleep is because they're not attached to it. They're not experiencing it. Oh, those are great statistics. Wow, look at that graph. Incredible numbers. But I'm not attached to it. And for that reason, storytelling becomes important in the informative speech. And if you want to persuade someone, you got to do storytelling. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a look at dun dun dun, the hero's journey. Now, good storytellers can tell you about the most boring day and you'll love it. You know, I got up out of bed this morning, nothing really remarkable about it, but then something happens. So they start out. You always start out in a hero's journey in the ordinary world, a world where everyone can connect. That schematic triangle works for them. You know, when they say, I'm a college student, I'm experiencing this, or, you know, I'm the oldest child, or I'm the youngest child. It's an ordinary world, nothing really great about it. However, at some point, something happens. That's that conflict that we were talking about in our original one. There's a call to action. You know, I was sleeping comfortably in bed. Suddenly the alarm goes off. I realize I have to get up. At first, I hit the snooze bar and I go back to sleep. Oh wait, that's a refusal to call. Every story you see, the hero is always reluctant. They're not ready. They have a comfortable life. They're living in the ordinary world. Sure, they understand it's important, but why me? It could be someone else. For that reason, they refuse to call. They refuse to answer and to go out and risk something. But then the wise old sage shows up, the mentor, the person they've looked up to. Their dad enters the room and says, "Son, it's time to get out of bed and go to school." Wow, they've had a meeting with a mentor. And so they decide, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to go out. They get up and they start to get dressed. They're starting to cross that threshold. Suddenly they encounter allies or enemies, people that are obstructing them, holding them back, or encourage them forward. They walk out of the bedroom, mom saying, "Hey, get yourself to school. You're going to learn something today. It's going to be great." So they get dressed, they eat their breakfast, they have met their allies, and they understand that they're going to go out and they're going to have the best day ever. So they start and they leave out the door. And then the abyss. This is your rising conflict. This is where, oh no, they walk out the door and they find their car tires are flat. And suddenly they don't know how they're going to get to school. Oh, despair. Oh my, what will we do? So they must, at that point, seize on the moment and become determined. And they transform their, my bike tires, my car tires are flat. I have to get to school. I'll run. And so they start running and they start transferring and they suddenly become more. And they get there and they get to school. And at this point, that transformation begins. They become a better student because they had to struggle to get there. And you know what? That's your climax. That's the peak. That's the top of your story. And then what's going to happen is they're going to start the road back. They got there. They aced the test. They did super. They presented their speech. They heard the audience roar. It was wonderful for them. So now they start the road back. And they're no longer the same person. They have transformed. They're becoming something more. And so there's a rebirth that happens in them. And in this rebirth, they become better. And then finally, bearing that gift of that remarkable day, they return again to that ordinary world to mom and dad and, hey, I'm home, I did great. The world is ordinary, but I'm different. I've grown, I've matured. That is your hero's journey. Now think about that. You've seen this in every movie. The Matrix and all of the other Star Trek, and help me out with some nerdy ones here, all you nerds out there. Boy, I really wish I could talk to you right now. But in every movie it happens, every one you've enjoyed. You see the same cycle. That's your hero's journey. Now you might be wondering, well, how does that fit in to an informative speech? It's not the topic of your informative speech, but you can work it in. Let's say you want to tell people how to change a tire. Well, you can just walk out and say, well, the first thing you have to do is you have to jack up, stop the car. Good idea, stop the car. Get out of the car door, go around to the side, get in the trunk, get the jack out, get the tire. Are you bored yet? Probably are. The reason why you're bored, there's no story in it. However, you throw in something like, I remember it was December, the snow was coming down hard, and I was riding with my grandmother to her bingo game. And as we're going there, suddenly we heard a thump, a thump, thump, thump. And the tire was flat. My grandmother couldn't change. My grandmother's 70 years old. There's no way she could change the tire. So I got out, and I knew I was the hero that day, and I would save the day for her. And then you start adding in, and fortunately, I learned how to change a tire. So when you change a tire, these are the steps you take. And so that starts out your story, and then you're going to loop it back around. You're going to intertwine the story with your informative speech. So that way when you come back around and you're again at the start, you bring it back by saying, and on that snowy day, I got back in the car, the tire was changed, and my grandma won at bingo. And everyone has to wipe an eye, a tear from their eye, and they're happy because they've experienced something with you. Something more than just instruction. They went through an experience and they lived it with you. And they'll remember how to change a tire because you told them how. And you made it so they would remember it. Now, do we see this in modern media yet? I mean, you know these people that are in the screen before you. I don't. I think I've seen 3 of them, maybe? But why are they successful on YouTube? Why are they successful on media where they're sharing information? They're sharing ideas, thoughts. They're sharing stories. And that's where we're seeing, as we're going forward, if you have to do a big informative speech, think about a story that would work. Think about your audience. Who are you talking to? What would they find interesting? If you're online and you're going to a group of people that are enthusiasts for, let's see, what's a good fandom here? The banjo. Well, maybe banjo players, you should start out with a story about music. Or maybe you should start out with a story about banjos, or the first time you ever heard a banjo, or a song that included a banjo. And their eyes will go, oh, they're talking about something I care about. And because they're talking about something I care about their information. And this is a very important tool going forward. So you have your informative speech already written, I'm guessing, and you already know what you're going to do it on. You don't want to sit there and say, well, step 1, step 2, step 3. Yeah, they get the idea. However, you come out and say, oh, that day I was a hero. I changed the world, and I came back a changed person. It was great. Guess what? They're in it with you. Like I showed you that diagram of what happens in the mind. Stories connect. So feel the need to use them and to work them in. You might encounter some people say, yeah, we don't need the stories. But really, we are stories. So what we wanted to talk about today is expand something for you. Something to make you a better speech presenter and something that you can utilize to connect with your audience. So we reviewed the storytelling so far, the basic one. Oh, here's our exposition. Oh, here's our climax. Oh, resolution, we're done. However, we now see that it adds. The mind, the human mind, lights up when you tell stories. So tell stories. Then we discussed what a hero's journey is and how a hero's journey is used in media everywhere. I mean, you look at The Lion King, you look at any movie you've ever seen, it's a hero's journey. Your books, Harry Potter, all those, it's a hero's journey. Then we discussed a little bit about how in modern media you're seeing the hero story. And then what do I got left? That's right, the clincher. Here's for you Doctor Who fans. We're all stories in the end. Just make sure it's a good one.